Just waiting. We are live. I think we are. It says we are on my end. Good evening, good day, good morning, whatever time it happens to be in your corner of the globe. My name is Lee Hayward, and today I am joined by a good friend and a coaching student, someone I've known for years, Paul Miller. I mean, my goodness, Paul, how long has it been since we first
2019. 2019. I first
2019?
wandered into your group in April of 2019.
Yeah, but you were a member of our back in the day, the Total Fitness Bodybuilding forum and member site that we had before. Like that started back years ago. I know you were part of that for quite a while.
Yes.
Yeah, but yes, it's been quite a while. So Paul is joining us today with our video chat. So for those of you who are tuning in now, I know a lot of people are just popping onto the live stream right now, which is good to see. We're streaming this simultaneously from YouTube as well as Facebook. So whether you're tuning in from the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Facebook page, Total Fitness Bodybuilding YouTube channel, or my personal profile over on Facebook. All right, we have some people joining in. Good stuff. Is this coming through loud and clear for the viewers? Please let me know. If you can hear me and see me and hear Paul and see Paul, let us know. Just type in loud and clear into our chat window if this is coming through loud and clear on your end. I always like to do that before we get into our video chats. Let's see. Good stuff. I think this is working. I'm coming through loud and clear on your end, am I, Paul?
Yes, very clear. I hope others will be able to hear me as well.
Sure. Yeah. So the way these chats work is normally I do a lot of Q&A, and if you have any questions or comments or topics of discussion that you would like to discuss, please feel free to type those into our video chat window, and we'll do the best we can to help you out over the course of our video chat today. But one thing that we're going to be doing as well is sharing some of Paul's insights. And Paul is a member of our Muscle After 40 Blueprint coaching program. He's gone through and made an amazing transformation. And we actually did a video together. We were just chatting about it before we went online here. We did this in 2021, I believe it was, or was it 2020? I can't remember. 2021 it was. Yeah, it was a couple years ago. We did this video together. And at that stage, Paul had made an amazing transformation. And the cool thing about this is he's still moving forward, right? It's not one of these on and off again or get in shape and then rebound and relapse. Paul has been steadily making progress year after year after year. And he's very consistent. And that's what I respect is the consistency, the good enough, but good enough consistently mindset that we have. And he's certainly adopted that. And he's taken things to a whole nother level with not only his own personal fitness, but helping other people with their fitness journey as well. So that's why I wanted to bring him on, and we'll certainly get into chatting about that. So again, welcome, Paul. Glad to have you. It's awesome to chat.
Really
so you're from Alberta, Canada.
Yeah.
What's the weather like today?
Sunny, cold, but sunny. And we're very grateful for a bit of sun, beautiful blue sky. So we couldn't ask for a better winter day.
Right. So Paul's on the West Coast. I'm on the East Coast. As you can tell by in the back of me, I'm pitch black. It's evening here now, but it's freezing. We're in a big cold snap here for us. So yeah, I can certainly appreciate the chill in the air. That's for sure. Yeah, this time of year. So one thing that we want to really jump into now is just your own fitness transformation. So, right. I mean, like it wasn't all that long ago when you started working out for the very first time. Right?
That's true. It was the very first time. And that was 62.
Let's just do a quick little recap, because I know we did do a video interview talking about that, but just for the benefit of everybody who's joining in, and some people may have not seen that video, like when was it that you actually started working out?
It was 2017, mid-April, 20th May, that time period.
Yeah.
And I worked with an Iranian bodybuilder trainer. His name was Mehdi Kanzadi. And I had met him in the learning hub. He had come to get help for his English. And that was what I was doing. I was a tutor there. And he was an astonishing physique. And I could not help but say, how did you get so big? And he told me his story.
Mm-hmm.
I told him mine, and I could see tears of emotion in his eyes because he said, I was just like you. And I said, could you help me? And he said, yes, I'd be glad to. And he brought me there to the gym, and it was I thought it was going to be terrifying. I had visions, horrible visions of how horrible it would be,
Right.
because I did not have a very positive physical education experience to begin with, and
Mhm.
never had a good experience with athletics or athletes throughout most of my life. So being brought there was like Martin Luther being taken before the Inquisition. I was really very frightened, and so
Sure.
it was
And
terrible.
even just, I mean, even just to back up from there,
Yeah,
like what brought you to that situation to begin with? Because like you were not athletic growing up. You're not one of these like,
no, not at all.
jocks in school or any of that, or like
Almost
no.
the opposite. I think I mentioned to you I was the scholar in school, and
Mhm.
I loved saying I consumed books as much as you drink cups of energy drinks or cups of coffee. That was one thing. It was quite true, and I got quite a broad education,
Yeah.
but I did not care about my health. I really did not care, and
Mhm.
I loved the students. I loved my subject. I loved teaching English, the humanities, and everything, history, and so on.
Yeah.
But I did not really care about myself. And I've learned, as you mentioned before, learned helplessness. The
Mm.
more I ate, the fatter I got, and the less I
Yep.
cared. And it got so bad. I mean, I have pictures of myself when I was married and I looked quite thin, but my suit hide was very good at hiding my belly. I was not in very good shape at all. And it
Right.
got worse and worse and worse. And so when I left Japan in 2011 and came back to Canada, it got even worse. And
Mm.
all the way up, I think, to 200, well over 260 pounds. I remember that very well. And yeah, early in February the 12th, I could feel a pain I'd never known before. Like someone put a broomstick through my back and was stepping on my chest. And it was the most grinding, painful moment. And I knew I felt I was dying. And my
Mm.
wife very wisely called 911. We got me to the hospital and I passed out. I went into unconsciousness for 6 hours. And I came to, and the ER physician grabbed was there, and I
Mm.
woke, just walked over, took my wrist, and it felt like an iron vice. And she said, "The universe has just given you a gift, a second chance. What are you going to do about it?" And then she let go and walked out, and I never saw her again to say thank you. So
Wow.
that was a very eerie moment for me. But I
Yeah.
knew at that moment, my life had better change, and so I made every effort to change, but I really didn't know how. Lee, I
Mm.
had nothing. How am I going to change my life? How am I going to live better? And so, having met Lee, and then, or not Lee, Mehdi, and then eventually another man named James, who
Mhm.
really tore apart my life and
Yeah.
lots of stuff back together. And then meeting you, because you introduced me to an entire, as I like to say, universe of fitness.
Mhm.
And that was what has kept me stable. The others have come and gone, but you have
Mhm.
been there all this time, guiding me very patiently to understand what fitness is all about. So,
Mhm. Oh, I mean, just to think back of where you were and how far you've come. I mean, it's inspiring, and I mean, like you literally were on the brink of
I
on
was
death's row right there. You're knocking on the door.
I was ready to die, and I was disappointed when I woke up, because I thought, really, I'm going to have to go through this again.
Wow.
When that ER doctor looked at me and said those words, it just flipped my world upside down.
Yeah. And just kind of put a visual, because as we always say, pictures speak louder than words. I actually just shared a picture with you earlier from a couple of years ago. This is one
Yeah,
that you shared with us on our VIP coaching group.
yeah,
Just want to share this, and let's just see if that's coming through on our
yeah. I remember
screen there.
Lee was when I was at my worst.
So I don't know if I can make that any bigger or not. Let me see there, because I know I'll just make this bigger. Let's see if I can come through. Let's play around with the settings there. Okay, yeah, it's coming through a little bigger.
Mm.
Scroll up.
Yeah,
So this was one you shared on our Facebook group back in 2021 is when you did share it. When you well, just look at the difference,
mm.
right? Like just look at the difference. I mean, that's a it's not a physique picture, but it's a real life picture, and it just shows the difference in how big you were. And I mean, you look younger, even though you're older.
Yeah. Thank you. That's very kind of you to
But it
say.
is true. Like, I mean, if we put those pictures to anybody and didn't put any dates by them or anything like that, we would assume you're it was the reverse order, right? You're younger.
No.
You look younger in your after picture there in the 2021 picture. The
But
fit
you notice the difference of alertness. Like in the left picture, I'm fast.
Mhm.
My heart. I mean, I didn't even drive there. And
Really?
no, I think I did. Yes, I did. I mean, I was like so exhausted from the trip, I just didn't
Yeah.
care anymore. And I drove much farther in the second picture and was up much longer and was full of energy.
Mhm.
So
It's
yeah,
amazing
it
to
is
share,
amazing. I'm very
just
grateful.
to put things in perspective for sure. So, I mean, like, you really transform things. And one thing that you're doing now that I found so inspiring, and you were sharing this with our VIP coaching group the other day when we had our one of our group Zoom calls, is some of the work that you're doing with your local church.
Yes.
You're actually, not only have you achieved, like, you've come full circle, and when it comes to it, I mean, mastering anything. I mean, the first step, okay, you have to learn it and you have to apply it for yourself. But then the final step is if you can teach it to others.
Mm,
And you know yourself as being a teacher,
right.
the greatest form of education or self mastery or whatever we want to call it is if you can actually take a concept and then teach it to somebody else,
Yes.
you're the one who actually gets the biggest benefit from it because you learn it at a deeper level
Yes.
enough to actually teach it to somebody else. And that's exactly what you're doing now. So you're teaching others,
Mm,
and you have a group through your church that you're a fitness group.
yes.
So can you just share that? Because you've had a big turnout this past week, didn't you?
Yeah, but as I said, we're up to 18. The weather has really kept some back, but we have had 18 altogether in the group.
Hmm.
When I have to mention this, but when I won the Body Transformation Challenge, the medals for that, the seniors pastor was so impressed by that story, he had me present it before. Well, this was when we were still in COVID lockdown, but present it before the entire seniors group, and they're well over 300, 400 people
Wow.
altogether. And so it was broadcast, and he had me tell my story. And when he heard it, he was himself quite surprised, as were many others. And word was chit chatted about, well, why don't we have something like, a fitness group or something? So he thought, okay, let's see if Paul would be willing to volunteer and teach and what he knew and pass that on to us. And so the idea of Fitness with Friends was born. And the other nickname was a buck a body. So we have a jar, and you come in and drop in your loonie, drop in your dollar coin, and you can enjoy time with me. And so that it began beginning of September
Mhm.
last year. And so we've had started with 8, and it's grown and grown and grown. And it's basically by word of mouth, not by my invitation. There, as one lady put it, I'm so excited to be here. And another lady has herself said, I would not have been able to get out of my wheelchair and onto my bed because I had fallen and hurt myself had I not come to the group and learned some upper body strength exercises. So it's been a good group. And that's basically what I do. Every Monday from 10 to 11, I meet with them and we do a program of stretching, I warming up. And
Thanks
so
for your program, because this is something I love your acronym, the way you teach it. So just,
the 5 fingers, you mean?
yes, please
Yeah,
share that with us.
that 5 fingers of fitness. And we learn this every week. So we start, because we're a faith community, we start with the palm, start with
Mhm.
palm. And from that, all other things proceed. And so the thumb, which is like thumbs up, it's good, reminds me of a good mindset. I have a good mindset. And my mindset is I'm an athlete. I'm an athlete of aging. Right?
Nice.
And then the second one, which is a pointer finger, I want this, I want this, I want this, is nutrition. I want this food, I don't want that food. So we're pointing the things we want and pointing away the things we don't want. So nutrition. Now, the middle finger, which is the longest, not the naughty one, but the longest finger, there's 2 parts. There's the upper part, which is resistance exercise, which is the main portion, and then the lower portion, which is cardio. Both are important, but let's get the perspective right. So
Mhm.
resistance and cardio. Then the fourth finger, which is the R for ring finger, rest, recovery, and relaxation. So they get the right sleep and active recovery and just relaxing from stress. Then the last one, which is little, but not all that, it's not unimportant, but it's small, is supplementation. And things like creatine or
Mhm.
casein, protein shakes, and so on, things like that. I don't really advocate protein shakes per se. I want whole food. But creatine, I find, and casein shakes are very good for satiation. But I also encourage cottage cheese and eggs before they go to bed as well to help with satiety when they get up. But that's the 5 fingers, and we review those every week. And what's the 5 fingers? And blah, 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 blah. And we enjoy that together. So how was that?
Yes, I love that. I love that whole acronym because you really summarize it all, or that whole analogy, I should say. So we got God is the center,
Right.
the mindset. We've got our nutrition, our exercise,
Your
right?
rest, recovery, active recovery, rest and recovery, relaxation, and supplementation.
I love that. It's easy to remember. I just seen someone pop up in the chat there right now. Stephen was saying 5 fingers, like that, easy to remember. Absolutely. Yeah. And welcome, Steve. Glad to have you joining him. Stephen actually went to high school with me back in the day.
Excellent.
Yeah. So yeah, it's so cool to see that. I mean, that's one thing that when you shared that with our group, I said that is so cool. How did you come up with that? Like, is that something that you designed yourself?
I can't take credit for this.
Okay.
And actually, I love this. This is marvelous.
Okay.
Followed Tea with Lee for years, right? And I sit there and I take down the notes, and I have these notebooks of all the things I've learned from Tea with Lee. Well, actually, you started with Q&A, and then
these live video Q&A. I sometimes call them Tea with Lee, and sometimes
grad school in nutrition and exercise, because when I go there, I learn all these amazing things, but I get these nuggets, and I kind of, in my mind and in notebooks, separate them. Like, what does this belong to? Is this more mental? Is this more exercise? Is this more supplementation oriented? And they began to very slowly fall into 5 different pillars or 5 different zones. And I've had others talk about it in ways I think they're pillars of fitness, but it didn't really hang on. It didn't really grab my seniors. But when I came up with the 5 fingers, they could literally carry that with them wherever they go, right? And they could remember, am I keeping these 5 fingers of fitness in place? So that all of those notes condense themselves into the things I learned from your Q&As. And I will be blunt. I hate not being here. I have other responsibilities that pull me away every time. But when I get a window of opportunity, I am there diligently. I may not be able to get all my questions in, but I watch all of the videos. Like I do all of the video chats. I go through them almost every year. I start at the beginning and work my way through and learn and learn and learn and learn. So I'm your fan by distance learning, but I don't really participate actively. It bothers me intensely. But I want to just tell you, I'm a very big fan.
I appreciate that, Paul. And you got this from just watching all these live Q&As and following along our group.
All months.
And it's just ironic. I mean, I love how you just taken all this and made it your own, like made it that, the 5 fingers. And I mean, that's something, I would love to, implement within our own coaching program. Because again, it's something you can take with you, right? It's your little reminder, right? You got your notes right there on your hand. What do I need to focus on? I love that. Really helps to solidify it and just it's a great analogy how you broke it down, and the importance of different things.
What has happened though, you've also branched out, so there's another hand involved.
Okay, we got part 2 here.
Yes. So you've talked about the importance of warming up in exercises like stretching and so on, the difference between dynamic and static stretching. And then you've often talked about body weight exercises being very important as an essential part of your workout. And then resistance training, and then cardio training, and then learning how to cool down after workout. So I've broken up a lot of what makes a good workout a good workout. If you do those 5 things, you've got yourself a good workout.
Nice. So this is what you teach your
right. Okay. And that's the new feature, because that has only come from recent, I'd say maybe the last 3 or 4 months, where I begun to see like there's another aspect that's coming out of here. And I went, well, let's sit down and think this through. And so I kind of walked it through, and it may be very rough, and I may be getting the order wrong, but I did know that the warming up and cooling down are really essential.
Yeah.
The other 3, what you do with them, what order they are in, I guess is up to greater minds than mine. But I know body weight is essential, resistance exercises and cardio exercises are essential. And just mobility and balance exercises are
Mhm.
important to work on that. So all of those qualities of what makes a good workout has
Love
blended with the five fingers. So we've basically got two hands that make a complete and strong whole. And I'm very visual. I'm
Yeah.
so, but I appreciate the knowledge you've passed on through the Q and A's, and I'm a I've been learning and learning and learning. So
Well, it's nice to have you joining in on our Q&A here today. So, I mean, and thanks for sharing that. I got a lot of value from that, and that's something I think we'll definitely be incorporating into our own group as well, especially for people who are new to fitness and nutrition. Is kind of like lay that foundation and to simplify it.
yes,
Right, because it's nice to have those things. And even when you study like different memory experts and stuff, they always try like anchor different things, like try to anchor it to something. So I love how you anchored it to our fingers,
yeah.
help us remind and just to make it clear and solidify it.
Mhm.
Thank you for sharing that.
My pleasure.
And where are you to now with your own personal fitness? Like what's your main focus on at this stage of the game?
Ever since I won that body transformation challenge
Yeah,
in
let's elaborate on that because I know you kind of touched on it a little bit, but this was during.
after we had our interview in 2021, I was of two minds about whether I would really enter. I was encouraged to enter a body transformation challenge. I thought, you must be joking. Are you like, what part of your brain just died? And I thought, no, I'm not going to do that. But after our conversation, I thought, okay, I'm gonna contact Sean Campbell of the International Drug Free Athletics group and say, Sean, I'm sending in my application. So I sent it in, paid my fee, and began the process. And didn't have much time, but I was bringing myself down. At that time, I was about 171, and I brought myself down to 160 and 11% body fat at that time.
Okay.
I took pictures and I was horrible. But I took pictures, got tanning solution. Oh, the tanning solution story is all a story of itself. But got
Mhm.
tanned and took pictures, sent it in, and I thought, here they're gonna say, isn't this lovely? Okay, well, let's show this to our grandkids. Looks like grandpa's playing too. But when they announced that the gold medal winner was me for Alberta and silver for Canada, I almost fell off the bed.
Wow.
And so, apparently, the silver medal, I was the top male contestant in Canada at that time for the body transformation challenge. So, although I got silver, there was a woman who got gold. I was the only male on the platform.
Okay.
And so that was quite a coup. And so I thought, this is exciting. And my friends in the gym said, so now what are you going to do? And I said, I don't know. Well, let's think about that. And so last year in August, my friend said, okay, we've come up with this idea. And one of them is an actual semi-professional bodybuilder, and the other has been a coach, a bodybuilding coach. And they said, "Have you ever thought of going on the physique stage?" And that it was almost the same reaction I got with the body transformation challenge.
Mhm.
No, and he said, "Well, you could consider that." I said, "Why?" He said, "They'll blow me off of the stage. You're not going there to compete. You're going there to celebrate." You're
Wow.
you're going to be 70 years old in 2024.
Yeah.
Celebrate becoming 70
Celebrate becoming 70.
and be there to celebrate the transformation and the journey. Be among those men who are showing their physiques. You
Mhm.
do that too. And just being there, you have won.
Wow. And just think of first off, the progress you've made. Because I mean, you started working out at age 62, is that correct?
Yes, correct.
You've never stepped foot inside a gym
No, I'm sorry. I can't say I used to play football. No, not even there.
right. You've never worked out till 62 years of age after having a cardiac event slash
Yes.
heart attack, whatever we want to call it.
Yeah.
I mean, after having your brush with death, literally.
Yes.
And I want to share that because a lot of people reach out to me and say, oh, I'm in my 30s. Have I missed the boat? Am I too old? Right? I'm in my 40s. Am I too old? And they always feel like if I didn't start when I was, 5 years old, I missed the boat, right? Everyone thinks they're too old.
Mm.
And the reality is you're never too old. Like you're never going to be as young as you are now.
True.
So start now.
Mm.
Like just start now. And I love how you started at 62
Mhm.
and now, I mean, pushing 70, you're literally in the best shape of your life.
Yes. quite literally.
It's amazing.
Just like the gold.
I mean, I'm not saying that we recommend doing that to people, right? Don't wait until you're 60 to start exercising and taking care of yourself.
I actually envy Jeff, and as
Mhm.
he started younger, and
Yeah.
that what he's done with himself is nothing short of jaw dropping.
Mm,
My admiration for him is immense.
yeah.
But then we've had Steve, and then
Mhm.
we've had Craig, and then we've had Mike. What would it call him? Iron Mike, Iron Man Mike, Mike, and
Oh,
the transformations that all of those men who are very close to my soul
mhm,
have experienced remind me what wonders can happen the earlier you start.
mhm,
And although I really do want the six pack, and it's
yeah,
working, but I've got a lot of abdominal issues
mhm,
as a result of being pregnant for 30 years, like obesity, and that plays a significant effect on your entire body. But
sure.
I don't want my seniors to be looking for that as the indication of that's what fitness is.
Mhm,
Fitness is your ability to handle environmental stresses well, and that involves all kinds of things, not just simply muscular excellence. But for me, I want to be on the physique stage because I want to show people this is what I've done.
yeah,
Isn't this great? Aren't you happy? Like, look at what all of their teaching has done. Here's a man who's come at this in this stage of his life, and he wants to be among you all and say, yes, I can be strong too. And that's what I'm excited about. And my seniors are behind me with this. They think they're very excited, not just for me, but for themselves, because they see light is coming into their eyes and life is coming into their voice and excitement is coming back into their worlds where there was just nothing but jigsaw puzzles and crokinole and
that's
crossword
true.
puzzles. Forget the
That's
crossword puzzles.
right.
That can, I mean, I love crossword puzzles. I could play crokinole all night long, and I have no problem with jigsaw puzzles either. But that's not life.
Yeah.
That's existence. And I don't want to merely exist. And I've said I want to thrive. I don't want to survive. And I want to thrive. And that's what I'm holding out to them. You can thrive.
Mm.
Join me. I will show you how, because I'm there and I'm experiencing it myself.
I mean, there's so much energy, and like I love it because it's a rarity these days to really have that kind of enthusiasm for life and that energy at any age, let alone people who are pushing 70. Most people that I know, friends, family, neighbors,
Yes.
once they get, to that age range, it's just giving up, right?
Yes. And
They
I
give
want that
they
myself.
lose hope.
Yes, they do. And that when the hope dies, it
Mhm,
takes a tremendous amount of work or life shock to blow it back into life again, fan the flames again, to
mm.
blow wind over the embers and coax a flame to come out. It's very difficult. Yeah.
Very difficult. Sometimes it's impossible. Sometimes the flame dies, as we know, right? It doesn't come back.
And it did for me, except for the fact that I got a second chance, and I would not ever want that to be anybody's experience. But
Mm,
it's necessary for me, and hence the enthusiasm. People ask me, "What's my why?" My why is I want to stay alive.
yeah.
That's a big why.
A big why. Stay alive. I mean, you gotta let to live for, right? You got a
Now I
family,
do.
you got kids and grandkids, and now you're inspiring other people's lives through, your fitness group at your church and doing what we're doing here. I mean,
Yes.
this just sharing this inspiration. And I gotta say I love it. And I just wanted to share this. I actually popped it up on the screen while you were talking there about your these are the medals that you won when you did the body transformation challenge. So this was a before and after transformation challenge, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
That's right.
So this wasn't getting on stage and competing as a
No,
bodybuilding competition.
no. And
Before,
because it was virtual, there would have originally been you go on stage and show people what you like now, and then you
right.
would hold your story. But this was all virtual, and those were the medals. They were real metal, and they're heavy. They're not made out of plastic. These are heavyweight medals,
Yeah.
and they have my name and how I placed, like gold for Alberta and silver for Canada. And I showed them with pride to my family, and that made quite a difference in my family as well.
Hmm. Absolutely. And this was during the height of our pandemic that we went through. So that's why it wasn't a live event and had to be a virtual event. But still, I mean, people still submitted their information, their before and after pictures and video progress updates, the same as the best we could virtually. So I mean, you were still judged fairly, and to place second, I mean, that was very respectable. So this is really helping to spur on a lot of new things because of this. That's how your whole fitness group with your church started, correct?
Yes. And the pictures that are there in the upper left part, like you had there, showing my progress through the months and so on. I remember when I first got bicep definition. I was so excited. I felt like a teenager. Look, I got bicep separation. And I felt like a kid. Like, Daddy, want to see my bicep? But the VIP group was kind of like my older brothers. I could say, look, I'm getting as strong as you are. And it was a marvelous moment. But not everybody shares that. Not everybody is excited about your transformation. And so on the darker side is you also have to give people the ability to speak back to those who are the naysayers, the dream killers. Tell people, you may despise what I'm doing. You may think I'm loony or out to lunch for wanting this dream. But what are you doing? How's it going for you? How's your health and fitness? I'm 70. Or nearly 70. I can carry 250-pound bags of dog food. How about you?
The real world strengths, right? Not how much can you bench press, how much can you deadlift?
Yes, like I can deadlift 250-pound bags of dog food. No, but I remember when I hit 315 for my deadlift, that was very exciting. But so, but this being a snow angel in my community is a significant thing. I got an award from the community of a snow shovel because of my work doing that, to say congratulations on your body transformation challenge. And they gave me a snow shovel, and it's a good snow shovel. It can break through lots of tough ice.
Right.
But that's what I did. And now with the current snowfall that we've gotten here, I'm again going out using the better strength to get it done more efficiently and to get it done faster. And it's been exciting. And I love doing that because remember, Lee, I couldn't for
years.
Decades. Lee.
Decades. Wow.
And that wears on you. Like, I have to get a little boy to help because I can't do it, or I can't carry the groceries. I needed to have help. Now I can carry the grocery boy and the groceries.
Love it. But it's so inspiring and refreshing to have this kind of conversation. And for those of you watching this right now, I mean, if you have any friends or family members who could benefit from this, maybe they're in their senior years, I mean, feel free to share. We've got our previous video that we did, but this is something that you could certainly share. And I guess if somebody wanted to reach out, they could certainly connect to you on Facebook as well if they had help or needed help or wanted to ask some questions. But again, I really appreciate you for sharing this, Paul. This is inspiring for sure. I'm just going to jump into some of our questions here and just see the people are jumping in. Let's see, we got any particular questions. This is an interesting question. We can answer it from both our perspectives here now. Neil was asking a question about training to muscular failure versus training just a few reps shy of failure. What's the best for hypertrophy, safety, and recovery? Now, that would vary greatly depending on the fitness experience of the individual, the age of the individual. There's a lot of things to factor in there. But how do you deal with that, Paul? Like, do you train to failure? Like,
I remember Dr. Mike Israetel talking about that very subject and talking about walking through the different ages. And by the time you get to 65, well, prior to 65 is get the gains and don't get injured. Once you cross that magical boundary of being in your 60s and 65, it's don't get injured and yes, get the gains too. And so I don't generally train to failure per se, like technical failure. I will train maybe what they have a few short reps short of that because I have to recover. Recovery is not as quick as it is for maybe a 30-year-old, 40-year-old, or even a 50-year-old. So I have to be very cognizant of the fact that I need to recover. So what a regular guy may need 5 minutes, I might need 7 or 8 if I'm doing training for strength. Because my goal is hypertrophy, they say, well, 1 or 2. No, mine is 3 or 4. because the recovery is quite significant. Now, when I'm in the gym, I'm a real beast. I mean, they stand back when I could, throw barbells across the room. But I get in there and I'm very intense when I'm training. But I don't let my ego get in the way per se. I'm very disciplined. Like, no, this is not, I'm not feeling right. I stop now. And so that's what I would do. But for me, that there is a real difference between the younger side and the older side. And I'm not saying old and frail, but it's just like as you get older, there are general physiological changes you have to be aware of and be wise to choose.
I love you. I love that opinion that you shared for sure. And again, just the question again, just for those, it's your thoughts about training to muscular failure versus a few reps shy of failure. And I love that how you explained, get the gains and don't get injured, and then don't get injured and get the gains. That can really apply at all levels. It's almost, it's not like a hard set rule. Okay, once you're at 65 or whatever age group, I think it's kind of like a spectrum. It's like a weigh scale. Like when you're younger, it can be more pushing to get the gains, and because we're more immune to injury when we're younger, a little bit more immune to it, meaning the body is more forgiving. The joints and tendons and ligaments are more flexible, and it's less likely to get injured when you're younger. Not saying it can't happen. It certainly can, but you're less likely to get injured. And if you do get injured, the recovery is usually quicker. As you get older, obviously, the risk of injury is a lot higher. Joints, tendons, and ligaments are not as forgiving. And, we need to be more respectful of our body. And I've even noticed that in my own training. So the first time that I had a real serious injury, not just a minor pull or a strain, was when I was 28 years old. That's when I had my first muscle tear. And that was a bad one, right? That was a bad injury for sure. I don't even know if I have a picture of that, because that was one. Let me see if
What did you tear?
I tore a muscle right up under my armpit. It was weird injury. Let me just see. I think I might have a picture of that.
So like the lat?
It wasn't actually the lat. It was kind of like the triangle muscles between the lat and the tricep. It was kind of like some of the stabilizer muscles in between.
So good. Yeah.
But to make it, no, I don't have it off the top of my head. Oh, shoot. The reason why I was looking for that, because I actually was talking about this injury, and I did save a picture of it somewhere, but I can't remember what I did with it. Yeah. But I'm just scrolling through my computer here really quick. No, I can't find it. But anyway, it was a serious injury, right? I mean, I tore the muscles there, and that has never recovered. Like, I still have a gap in my armpit.
Wow.
That was back in, I did that in 2008. That's when I did that. So, I mean, that injury has haunted me ever since. I haven't been able to train the same or lift as heavy since that injury. So, I mean, but before that injury, I felt I was invincible. Now, subconsciously, like consciously, yes, everybody knows, okay, I can get injured, but I always approach it like injuries are something that happened to somebody else, right? It's not going to happen to me. That was my mindset until I got that injury. And then after that, that really changed my mindset and made me appreciate my body and just the feeling of being mobile and injury free a lot more.
Yeah.
That injury, that took me over a year before I could do normal workouts again. Wow. I remember like going through the gym like with baby weights. And when I say baby weights, the gym that I was training at the time had a full line of those plate loaded hammer strength machines.
Yes.
I started off just using the empty handles for the hammer strength machine. So like chest presses with the empty handles, rows and pull downs with the empty handles. And then the next week I put a 2.5 pound plate on each side. So I'm using and at the time I was around 230 pounds. So, I mean, people will be looking like, what the heck is this big Gronk over there lifting 2.5 pound plates on each side of the machine? And I'd be going through the motions, right? Sometimes grimacing because I could feel the pain, in the torn muscles. But the idea is you still want to move it. You still want to, stretch, move it, increase blood flow and circulation. So I do that. And then each week I try to just increase the weight a little bit. Ideally, I was just going up like 2.5 pounds a week. And then over the course of a year, I was back to handling somewhat normal weights again. But it still took that long to go through that whole recovery process. So I basically lost a full year of training from that injury. And now there's even certain exercises I can't do like I could prior to that. So,
And you had participated in a bodybuilding challenge?
oh my goodness, yes. It was ironic because that was the year, just a couple months before that, I had won the overall title at our provincial championships, and I was at the top of my game, if you will. Like that was the best I've ever been. So I had won the light heavyweight and the overall title at our provincial championships, and then I was into the post-contest rebound phase that they say. So I was feeling big and full and strong, and then pushing myself in the gym, and sure enough, boom, that muscle tore, and it's never been the same since. So
how did you fight the struggle from knowing you had done this incredible achievement and then now you're as weak as a baby? What
was depressing? Oh, I'm sure if I went to get tested or talk to a psychiatrist or anybody, I was full on depressed. I was. It just really, because I was at the peak, and then it's just like, oh, I mean, I was down, I was disappointed. It was downright depressing for sure. But the thing was, I decided, I'm going to make the best of this and I'm going to work around it. So, I mean, I still kept going to the gym because I didn't this is what I do, right? I still kept going, even though I was lifting baby weights and just going through the motions with those workouts. But we kept going with it. And, but again, it puts in perspective the whole idea of training to failure.
Yes.
Right? And I don't get hung up on this pushing yourself to failure and beyond. I did when I was younger, and before that injury, I did. Always thinking that, the more stress you put on the muscle, the better, right? Just train hard, train heavy, rep to failure, forced reps, negatives, whatever. Mm-hmm. And I was a big fan of Dorian Yates at the time, right? Former Mr. Olympia, Dorian Yates. And he had blood guts training mentality. And if anybody watched any of his old videos, he was a savage in the gym. They're arguably one of the hardest working bodybuilders in the world.
Yes.
Literally. And I grew up watching him because when I was into my heyday of bodybuilding throughout my teenage years and early 20s, he was there. And, that had a big influence on me. So I always tried to approach my workouts with that kind of intensity. And sure enough, that's what it ended up happening. I got injured, and I've had a few injuries since then. And speaking of Dorian Yates, that's the reason why he had to retire, because he had several muscle tears and injuries as well. So it does work, but it's like a double-edged sword, right?
Yes.
It's very often tip the edge to the favor of now you're doing more harm than good. Mm-hmm. So these days, I don't think of pushing training to failure. I have this mindset of the only thing that's going to slow you down in your progress is an injury. If you do an easy workout, that's not really going to slow you down because you can always train harder the next time. Even if you skip a workout, it's really not going to stop or hinder anything because you can always work out again the next day. Yeah. If you cheat on your diet, big deal. You can clean it up and get back on track the next day. So all these little things, they're not going to set you back. But if you go in and get injured, that's setting you back. You're not bouncing back the next day with an injury, especially if it's a serious one. So I'm very conservative with that. And these days, I've reframed my definition of failure, and it's the point where you cannot perform another repetition with good form, not the point at which you can't lift the weight at all.
Yes.
So this is something I know we've had discussions with before in the past, but it's take a bicep curl, for example. If we're doing bicep curls and we start to struggle, that's failure. Once you get to the point where I can't complete another strict bicep curl, you've hit failure. But a lot of people, they start use a little bit of swing, a little bit of leg drive, and next thing you know, they're doing another 5 reps on top of that. Yeah. But technically, that's beyond failure. Now, in a small exercise like biceps, you may be able to get away with it. But if you're taking the bigger exercises and you start loosening up your form and using momentum, or your technique is breaking down, like people are bench pressing and then they're arching their back and lifting their butt off the bench and straining and struggling. It's so easy for something that's when people pop their shoulders or tear chest muscles, or people straining with a deadlift and rounding their back, and the next thing you know, they got a herniated disc, or you can really cause some serious damage. So as soon as the form starts to break down, that's it. That's failure. Stop the set. Yeah. If you want to do more after that, hey, do another set. Take a rest period and then do another set if you want to get more volume. But trying to push yourself beyond failure into the point where your form is breaking down, I think that's that's no man's land, because that's where the risk to reward ratio is not in your favor at that stage. And that's the way I view training to failure. So again, that was a lengthy answer to Neil's question, but hopefully you got some value from it. I'd rather answer fewer questions and give him a good answer than just randomly blurting out stuff. All right. What else we got? Let's see. We got Orville is joining in. Orville's part of our VIP coaching group. We've got Iron Mike Brown joining in, saying Paul is a huge inspiration to all of us. Mike's joining in, watching. Glad to have you here.
The praise of the praiseworthy is above all rewards.
Yeah. Andy's saying great advice. Appreciating it. Thanks for the comment, Andy. Much appreciated. Keep after it, big brother. Scott's appreciating it. If you guys have any questions or topics of discussion, feel free to type them into our chat window. Myself and Paul will be hanging out here for another few minutes. How are you doing for time anyway, Paul?
Doing finely. No problem with it. Yes, I'm here for a bit.
Okay. All right. We'll go for another little while here. I actually have some more work to do. I'm actually working on an assignment that I need to complete. For those of you who don't know, I'm going through a Master Health Certification program. And I have an assignment that's due technically tonight. The deadline is midnight on Friday. So I'm kind of pushing my deadline, but I have all the content done. I just have to put the finishing touches on it and submit it.
You know, you're talking to a teacher, right?
I know. You're used to that. I'm sure you've had
Very
many
much used to it. I wince when I hear that. I'm just like, okay. I hope the coffee's strong.
Oh, it is. Well, this is stronger than coffee. I've got a Monster Energy drink. Sugar-free, of course. But I'm going to get it done. But I mean, the work is done. I just have to finalize it and submit it. But if there wasn't a deadline, we wouldn't get it done on time, right? We have to have those deadlines there.
When you talked about form, I remember sending you my picture of doing 255, and you were concerned that I was going up too quickly.
Yes,
so I reversed my approach. So instead of being aggressive each week, like going up 10 pounds, 15 pounds, 20 pounds, I started doing just 2.5 pounds a bit. And I watched myself slowly go from 250. Well, my PR was 255 at that time.
Yeah.
It started at 235, and I kept working and working very systematically, but much lower increments and much more slowly. And so when I hit 315 before my injury, my wrist injury, it was really exciting to put 3 plates on. I don't know why I didn't record it. I just did it because I wanted to see, can I get 3 plates on? And I did it, and I did a good rep, and I had my friends there, but I did 305, and I did record that.
Okay.
Just to break 300 for me was a landmark moment. But remember, we were going at it systematically, and you were very careful to say, watch your form, but your incremental growth. Because it's one thing to go from 235 to 255 and 275. That's too much. Yeah. Start going bit by bit and really pay attention to your form, because a deadlift with bad form is deadly.
Literally, yeah. I like how you say that. But I can remember it was a while back, because you were sharing, you did 255 pounds, I believe it was. And you were sharing how the person you were working out with was encouraging you. Like, that was a big jump from there.
Yes.
Might have been from 225 or 230 to
235, 245, 255.
So did you do that all in one workout? Like,
yes.
You went from 25 to 250?
I started at 215. And so I did 4 reps and 5 reps and 6 reps and then dropped down to 4 and 4 and 3 and 3 and 2 and 2. By the time I got to 265, to 245 and then 255, I was basically could only manage 1 rep. So I was very tired. I wanted to see what I was capable of doing, and I thought there was a little bit of coaching ego on the line there. But I didn't send the 245 one, because the language that he had was like out of shock and awe. Holy, yeah. And then when I did 255, he just the camera almost dropped out of his hand. He was just, I can't believe this grandpa just did this, right? But when I sent it to you, you were it stung, but it was coaches do that, everybody's cheering, the coach is shaking his head. And so you told me, go at it slower. So I dropped right back down to 235. And I kept working at 235 and then 237.5 or 240 and then 245, bit by bit by bit by bit by bit. So when I got to 300, it was a solid 300. It was there was no hesitation. People say you make it look easy. I knew I could do it.
Right.
I had earned that.
It's a different mindset and a different approach.
Exactly. I could put that on and the deadlift, and I put it on Instagram and with great background music. I was so excited. But it was only the result of paying attention to the idea of slow incremental changes and keeping your ego in check.
Because there's a high likelihood that you would have probably gotten injured going the old way.
Yes.
And that would actually, in the long term, would have been the slower approach. Because if you get injured, then of course that could set you back weeks or months or however long, depending on the
rest of my life.
Or maybe, put an end to your whole lifting career right there, depending on how bad the injury is.
Yes.
But you take that slow approach, and it seems slow, but it's not. Like, there's an analogy they use in racing. They say slow is fast. And what they mean by that is like slow down your approach and your methodology and everything else. It's like, because people try to rush through things. They think, well, I'm going to get it done. I'm going to rush through it. But when you try and rush the process, I mean, in the short term, you may see some progress, but in the long term, it's actually could be complete opposite, because you could push it too far. And if you kept trying to make those big jumps of 20 plus pound increments, like you did 255, let's just say you said, hey, I'm going to try 275 next workout.
Right.
Or you're eventually going to get to the point where that's just too much.
Right.
And you could easily hurt yourself. And this is a common thing I see a lot of, especially with the bench press. A lot of guys in the gym, like they finally bench 2 plates aside. They hit 225 and they say, well, hey, let's try 275. And then they'll place 2 plates and a 25 on each side. Like this massive 50-pound jump.
Yeah.
Expect 50 pounds, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, maybe they could get it, right? I mean, there's always these weird, spur of the moment. You get this surge of strength, you may be able to pull it off, but more often than not, that's going to be a disaster. I mean, the best case scenario, they're just going to hit failure and be stapled to the bench and have to get a spotter to deadlift the barbell off them. Yeah. Or worst case scenario, they could, pop a shoulder, tear a pec, or who knows? I mean, it could be a serious injury for sure. And this is where a lot of those injuries come from. Is people just trying to do too much too soon.
Yeah.
That 5-pound jump, or even smaller, because you can get these incremental plates that are even smaller, but most gyms these days got the 2.5-pound plates.
Yes.
So if you're going up by 5 pounds, it's not that big of a jump. If you've confidently done 250, there's a good likelihood, if you're feeling well rested and feeling good, you'll probably be able to get 255. It's not outrageous number. It's very within reach. Right. And that's how the best powerlifters in the world do it. Just baby stepping it. You just think those little jumps in weight compound over time, and it can add up to some significant progress. But it seems slow in the moment. Let's see what we got here. Bob Matthews saying, right on, Paul. Baby steps is the way to go. Less plateaus that way too. I'm adding small amounts, even if it's just 1 rep per week per movement. And that's another good thing there that Robert mentioned. It's adding repetitions is another thing. And this is something that's good for exercises where, especially isolation exercises, where you probably can't make a 5-pound jump, to try and get an extra repetition. I'm going to share this because it's a common one that I get with a lot of our coaching students in the Muscle After 40 blueprint. Side lateral raises, dumbbell side lateral raises. A lot of guys say, okay, I started with the 10s and then I went to the 15s, but I can't do the 20s. And like, just think of the percentage gain of 10 pound, 15 pound, 20 pound. It's not just going up 5 pounds. Like, you've literally increased the weight by 100%.
Yes.
Yes. That's like someone saying, hey, I did a 200-pound deadlift and I tried 300 pounds and then I tried 400 pounds. 400 pounds is just too heavy.
Yes, I understand that very well.
Right. It's percentage wise. So when people, those 5-pound jumps with a small isolation exercise, it's too much. So very often keeping the same weight and just trying to get an extra repetition could be your form of progressive overload. Even slowing down the tempo and using better form could be another form of progressive overload, because you're still forcing the muscle to do more work under the same weight. And that's what I do myself. Rather than trying to increase the weight on those exercises, I'll very often keep the same weight. And if I'm feeling extra strong, hey, I'll hold that peak contraction for a bit longer at the top, or I'll pump out an extra couple repetitions. But instead of trying to go up to the next heaviest set of weight, the only time I do the next heaviest set of dumbbells in those type of exercises is when it feels easy and I say, you know what, I know I can do it. But I'm not going to try and force it with that idea of, hey, I got to go heavier each time.
Mm-hmm. I've talked that to the seniors as well, because we use water bottles as our weights.
Okay, yeah.
Right. And I've told them how they can take the water bottle home and fill it with rocks and add rocks or part of sand if they need to. And they can experience progressive overload. But I said, do it to the point where you know you can complete it, not where you hope to complete it, but where you know you can lift it up. And try it with soup cans and try it with stew cans, but get that, just encourage yourself with progressive overload. They can be very stubborn with wanting to stay with this particular weight because they can do it. And they're not willing to take the risk of something heavier for fear that they may fail. So I said, then stop thinking of it failing. Prepare yourself for the next step. Prepare yourself. This is not something you're like being forced to do. You get the opportunity to watch yourself grow. You get to watch yourself grow. So enjoy the changing. Since I'm not making you do, he's making me do this heavy weight. No, it's you get to be stronger. So enjoy the joy of getting stronger. And the way, choose a soup can, choose a stew can, fill your bottle with rocks or pennies, or well, we don't have pennies anymore, but with nickels, and we can do that. But fill it with something that adds a bit more weight.
Yeah.
Or a larger bottle with water. So all kinds of ways. So I've talked about progressive overload a lot with them. And it's exciting to watch them say, Mr. Miller, look, I changed my water bottle.
Went to a bigger bottle, right?
So we've gone from the smaller water bottles now to a bigger water bottle. So we're experiencing progressive overload in our own group. But I tell them it's not just the bodybuilders or the big guys that do progressive overload. It's you as well. And it's how many times or how slowly you can do it or how quickly you can do it, how much rest we have in between. So there are about 6 factors that equal progressive overload. And they really appreciate knowing that it's not just lifting heavier, but being more strict about their form and the tempo. All of those things are factors too. And it gives them hope.
Yeah.
Because we focus on hope.
Hope. Have you ever used like resistance bands with some of your seniors?
Yes. Alberta has actually come up with, the Alberta Health Association has come up with this marvelous book on resistance bands exercises. I got 25 books.
Excellent.
To show them, and I think they come with a small set of bands, but I've acquired this massive collection of bands, and so I bring out my different strengths and different tensions, and there are a lot of therapy bands, the TheraBands, and exercises that we use, and so we've moved from just simple body weight to bottles to resistance bands, and they're very excited. Now, some of them have wanted to bring their own weights, and I said, I want you to enjoy the equipment that's there rather than being outclassed by somebody who's, I got this 2.5 weight. I want us to enjoy it together. And then at home, you can, go to your 2.5 pound weight and do what you want to do, but learn the exercise first, and then you can enjoy how excellent you can do it at home. Because the point is, don't wait for me to teach you the exercise here. Take it home with you. So we do all kinds of in-chair exercises. When you're sitting in the car, now you can do abdominal like vacuums and how you stretch yourself, like on the steering wheel, things like doing trunk rotations, all kinds of ways and places where you can train your body to move and be healthy. And from a variety of sources, I've gotten these things.
Excellent.
Again, the key is move.
Movement is medicine.
Movement is medicine. And it sounds silly, but I believe it. I'm an example of movement is medicine.
Absolutely. Yeah. And movement can get you off your medicine too, in a lot of cases.
We're here.
Yeah. I love that. And I love how you're incorporating resistance bands, because that's something it's for people who are starting off at home or have limited budgets or limited equipment. Resistance bands are so versatile. and they're inexpensive. They're very convenient, and you can do a lot of exercises with them. I mean, nowadays you can get the resistance bands with the doorway anchor, so you basically can duplicate cable machine exercises that you would do at the gym with resistance bands at home. So whenever I travel, I usually throw a pack of resistance bands in my suitcase. Takes up hardly no space, very little weight. I mean, it's something that you can take virtually anywhere, and then you're not stuck because you can still do exercises anywhere, anytime. So that's great that you're sharing that with your group. And another thing that really stood out is how you reframe it. You don't have to do it. You get to do it. Right. And like we could use that for anything that you kind of have a bit of a dread or a dislike towards. So you think of your chores, shoveling the driveway or mowing the grass, carrying in the groceries, whatever. You don't have to do it. You get to do it. And especially someone in your own situation who not that long ago couldn't do it.
That's right.
That is a privilege now.
I mean, I had fun. I had fun carrying in the dog food. That was really, it was a little bit of an ego thing. Like, oh, don't worry, I can carry it in for you.
Right?
But there were other things like pushing cars out of snowbanks and being, no, grandpa, we'll do fine. I said, no, I can give you a push. And all of those moments where I was able to give strength. And my seniors, and when they go for a walk, I said, take your resistance bands with you and find a tree limb and throw it over and then do pull downs. So I said, you use nature as your gymnasium. And I guess there is a gymnastic or a fitness concept called parkour, where they use the world as their gym, right? So I've been teaching them to be parkour enthusiasts.
Seniors parkour, yeah.
Hardcore parkour. Like they use the world as your gym. Carry rocks, lift logs. Find a low-hanging branch and practice a stretch. Some of them haven't gotten to pull-ups yet.
No,
but they can do it. They can do the stretch. That's very good too. So, like, incorporate the world, because in essence, it has become your gym. And you are the athlete. Remember, you're an athlete of aging, and athletes train everywhere they go, at every opportunity they find. That's the mindset. And enjoy it. And I do myself. I'm a practitioner of that. I show them pictures of myself doing these things wherever I go. And I think where the phrase action speaks louder than words. Well, for my seniors, that's definitely true. They won't believe it until they actually see me do it. Like when they said, can you deadlift? I said, yeah, okay. Well, this cart weighs so much. Can you lift it up? And I did. And they went, wow, okay. Wow. Pushing in the piano every Sunday has been my biggest proof that Mr. Miller is getting stronger, because I push it in and I push it out. And that's a full grand piano. Wow. And I pushed it 500 meters, and it takes a lot of go. And sometimes I miss pushing it back out, and it takes 3 guys to get it out the door. And here I am pushing it myself. So, but those are marvelous moments where the world is your gym. I think that was parkour's moniker, being fit enough to be useful, fit enough to be helpful.
Nice.
Right.
And that is such a big thing, especially as people get older. I mean, to be useful, to not be a burden. Right. Because that's where a lot of people are, unfortunately, as they get older. So I mean, it's just so refreshing to see someone like yourself now. It's not only doing this for yourself, but then to share that with others.
Yeah.
That's why I really wanted to have you on and just share this for a video chat. We got another question that came through there. This one's from Andy. He's asking for advice about increasing shoulder mobility. So, I mean, Paul, is this something that you teach your seniors? Do you have any specific exercises you like to refer to?
And basically the idea is you just need to find your shoulder, just keep it moving, just increase the range in which you can move your shoulders. And as you do it, you can add resistance bands to pull them. You can use them against a wall, like stretching up and stretching up, and then out and then out, and then bring them down and bring them down. But motion is critical. If you want mobility, it's movement, and it's incremental, careful, regulated movement. There's nothing magical about it. It's just actually determining, I'm going to make my shoulder go up. I'm going to make the other shoulder go up, and then I'm going to go up a little bit more. I can't do that, so I'm just going to stay here and maybe go from side to side. What you can do, but give yourself that challenge. You're, as I said, you get to challenge yourself for what you can do. Like leaning against the wall and doing this kind of stretching against the wall. What can you do, right? I couldn't do it like that for many months. And then slowly it got better and better and better. And then I can like go back and forth. But that came with practice. So my advice is move, but move with wisdom and incrementally. Be very gentle. And if you've got actual impingement issues, then work with those too. Because Lee, you remember my posture was horrible. When I first came. It was disastrous. So there's muscle strengthening exercises for the back deltoids that you need. The posterior deltoids that are essential for shoulder mobility as well. So it's not just simply moving the shoulders, but strengthen the entire deltoid region, the shoulder region. And there's lots of exercises for that. And now I have people can't believe it's the same person sometimes when they see me. Like one of my colleagues said, I thought it was you, but you weren't stooped.
You weren't stooped.
So, because I used to be, and I had to have canes, remember, for walking because I couldn't stabilize myself. So,
I mean, it's hard to believe that, that's when I see you and talk to you now. I mean, just to think of where you were. Yeah, it's really hard to visualize that.
I was a mess.
Yeah.
Wonder. My church prayed for me almost every week. Oh Lord, please bring back Paul the next week, because when I came back in 2011, my associate pastor said, you look like death warmed over with a side of fries.
Oh my God.
Because they were very worried. I was just like pallid and gray and just crumpled. And I was like this all the time. And so life just pulled me out. So someday the six pack will come. But for now, I'm just grateful that I can move and I can.
That's what real fitness is about. It's not about the abs. I mean, the abs are like the icing on the cake, but just
icing, but I want the cake.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, I appreciate what you just shared there with the questions about, where was it? The Andy's question there about the shoulder mobility. Yeah. And the thing that I would really, just put out to Andy here is, first off, like, what are you dealing with? Like, is it a shoulder injury? Is it some sort of thing that you've been dealing with for a long time? Like, I ideally want to know more about why you're asking about shoulder mobility, because if it's something serious, it'd be worthwhile to go get it checked out by a physiotherapist or someone who can analyze you and work with you and see exactly what it could be. Because, I mean, maybe you have some issues that need to be treated. But if it's just some tightness and stiffness, I mean, doing a wide range of exercises in the gym will improve your mobility. Like when you're doing your pressing work, when you're doing your rowing, and when you're doing all the different movements, that's going to help. And one thing that I always like to focus on with my workouts, and I always encourage, the guys in our Muscle After 40 blueprint as well, focus on working the agonist and antagonist, the opposing muscle groups. So if you're going to do a press, followed up with a row. If you're going to, so horizontal press, horizontal row, overhead press, overhead pull. If you're going to do a chest fly, also do a reverse fly. Focus on working all the opposing movement patterns. And if you do that on a regular basis, that will help to improve the mobility and keep the joint health good over the long term. Because a common issue that a lot of people run into, especially with shoulders, is this is common for a lot of young guys who start working out, is they focus on the chest and the biceps and the show off muscles on the front of the body, neglecting the back of the body, right? Out of sight, out of mind. So they overdeveloped the frontal muscles, and they get into that hunched over because all these muscles are getting tight, and then the muscles in the back are not in balance and proportion. So if you've been neglecting your back, neglecting your rear delts, neglecting the trapezius muscles, all those, then you may want to prioritize those in your workouts to balance it out. And very often, having things in balance and proportion can correct a lot of mobility issues. And then there's a lot of things like Paul mentioned, stretching, especially hanging from a pull-up bar is one of the best exercises you can do. One of the best stretching exercises. It's good for, your chest, your shoulders, your arms, your back, and it also helps to decompress the spine, increases your grip strength. I do that at the end of every workout. That's part of my post-workout stretching mobility routine. just hold on to the pull-up bar and just stretch. And I do it for as long as my grip can hold. And then I'll change it up. So might do overhand grip, might do underhand grip, might do the parallel grip, wide, narrow, just change it up, because most gyms these days, they got the pull-up station with a whole bunch of different handles. I'll probably just hold on to each one, for maybe 30 seconds each, and just roll through. And I find that that's a fantastic way to finish off a workout and just really stretch out your entire upper body. And it's a great grip strength exercise as well.
I'm not a spokesperson for city parks, but there are many park equipment places where they have graduated monkey bars. And you just simply find a monkey bar that you can just simply stand on the ground and grab it, and then just let yourself stretch, and then go to the next one, just a little tippy toe. You don't have to like fully hang, like your feet are, you're getting air time as you're going down there, right? But you just simply get that stretch, and that really helps.
Sure.
And then I got to the place where I could start doing my own pull-ups, right? So it was a very exciting moment to get up to 7 and 8 pull-ups at that one time, when I was showing you my pull-up progress as I was doing it. And that's how it started. It was just bit by bit by bit. And that helps with the thing. And on my back, people say my back definition is way better than my front definition, but that's because of posture. The more work I did with my back, it pulled my shoulders back. It helped with my breathing. My singing improved because I had better breath control. It was marvelous. And so it was an excellent time in my life where I just felt I was a new person. I did an aria. I mean, there's a thing, Handel's Messiah, Every Valley. And my lungs were full. I was able to sing the obligato, the runs in that with one breath.
Wow, that's good.
And yes, and that I remember the director looking at me like, "Are we okay with this?" Because he could hear what I was breathing, right? So when I was doing that, it just was a marvelous moment of singing all those runs, those arpeggios, which were marvelous moments.
Nice.
Because I had practiced that strengthening, pulling my chest back, filling up my lungs, getting it so stronger. Yeah.
See, these are all benefits of fitness that most people don't think of or talk of. Like, to be able to have your breath, for singing or speaking or whatever. Like, I remember there was an older gentleman I used to know and did public speaking. And that was his biggest fear, was running out of breath on stage, because, he was an older gentleman and he didn't look after himself, like drank, smoke, like all the X's that we could put on a health and fitness resume. He had them there. No exercise, and poor diet, smoke, drink, like we could just red X the whole thing. But he was a public speaker, and that was one thing that he really struggled with, was trying to give his presentations and not make it look like he was gasping for air.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
but there are people that live in areas where there's very poor air quality too. And exercise helps, because I came from Japan for nearly 30 years, and it's not known for its great air. And my doctor looked at my lungs and said, "How long have you been smoking?" And I went, "I've been smoking, but your lungs look like a smoker's lung." And I came back with COPD and asthma and chronic bronchitis. Over the time I began exercising, I eventually got rid of my asthma medicine and the bronchial inhalers that were necessary, except for the fires. I needed that only once. But basically, I got rid of all of that COPD medicine, the asthma medicine, and yes, nutrition helped, but I was able to exercise and teach my lungs to get stronger because there was more room for them. My chest was expanding, my body was growing, and there was room. So it was not just simply smokers, because people live in areas where there's bad air quality, and they can improve themselves with just regular exercise.
Thank you for sharing that, because that's something that I never considered, but I've heard people say, or I live in Newfoundland, out in the North Atlantic, and people who come here to visit, that's one thing they all comment on. Like, the air is like, this is like the cleanest air in the world.
Mm.
You're getting the fresh air coming in off the ocean, and there's no big factories or smog or any of that stuff. I mean, we got clean air, and it's something I actually take for granted because it's just normal. But obviously, that's not normal for everywhere.
No.
So, thanks for sharing that. Yeah.
Glad I could help you.
Yeah. So we got a couple other people sharing. This is Rick. Rick's another member of our Muscle After 40 program. Seen great talk, guys. Love it. Glad you enjoy it, Rick. Glad to have you tuning in. We got D. Cameron joining in. Lee and Paul, love the positive energy. I find that is one of my biggest downfalls. I step into a crowded gym and start to compare myself to others. This is a good reminder to stay positive. That's something we could actually clue up our chat on that.
Right.
Comparison.
Right. The thief of
others.
Right.
Right. How do you feel about that, Paul? Because I know
I live in
through the
world where seniors compare each other constantly. And the first thing I said is comparison is not bad, but what are you doing with it? If the comparison inspires you to do better, then that's good comparison. But if you're comparing because you want to verify how bad you are and how you're not as good as other people. I know full well, Lee, I am far behind the physiques of most of the men in the VIP circle. I'm well aware of that. But I am inspired to keep going because I see that as a beautiful vista ahead of me. This is where I can be eventually, and I'm going to work there. It's not body negativity or body positivity. It's body reality.
Right.
And you need to realize where you are. So my seniors are constantly doing this. And I'm saying, are you comparing because you want to verify the fact you need to stop? Or are you comparing because you want to be inspired and say, oh, I look how good that is. I think I should do that because that will help me too. So I thought I saw Cameron. D. Cameron.
Yeah, there we go. It was D. Cameron. Yeah.
His comment is very important. He's in a gym and he starts comparing. Don't stop, but move to the next step. You see how good they are. Be grateful you're there because you're on the way to where they're going. So use that as a moment to say, yeah, look at that guy. He's excellent. Lee, in my gym, I think there's at least 20 competitive bodybuilders that are there.
Really?
My gym is amazing. We have the Calgary Stampeders that sometimes come in and practice there. And we have some of the Calgary Flames players come in every once in a while because it's quiet, it's out of the way, it's in a dungeon. And so there's no windows for people to, oh, look who there he is. Maybe we'll get an autograph. They're safe from the onrushing crowds. So they're immense physiques. And I've actually caught myself going, I'll never get that big. Well, of course not. I'm not 6'2". Who's kidding who? But I know that what I'm seeing is a potential of where I can be. They are working hard. I'm going to work hard. They're working on that part of their body. I should be working on that part of their body. And my friend Jomo, who is a former IFBB bodybuilder, said, Paul, you are inspiring not because of how you look, but because of the intensity and positivity that you bring. So Cameron, bring the positivity and be positive to yourself. I'm here. I'm in the gym. This is great. Look at this. I get to be here. And I'm going to enjoy every weight, every machine, every cable machine, and make it work for me. Because that's who it's really for. It's you. So enjoy every minute and just savor it. You get to do something that 94% of the population will never do.
That's right. You got away with words, Paul. I got to say, this is a delight just having you here on this chat today, and just to hear that, it's inspiring for sure. I love it, and I love that whole analogy. Because what a lot of people would say to answer that question, which is another way to look at it, hey, compare yourself to yourself, right? Your competition is with yourself, which it is. But I love how you use the other people as inspiration and how you're comparing yourself and why you're comparing yourself. comparing it in a positive light,
Mhm.
not in a negative light, as in, oh,
Right.
I'm poor me, I'll never be that good, or
Yeah.
in a, a pity party type of thing. Looking at it from that point of view, you're looking at it as, this is motivation for me to improve.
Mhm.
Kind of goes back to the analogy, or the saying that Jim Rohn used to say: we're the average of the 5 people we hang around with. If
Yes.
you're hanging around people who are better than you,
Right.
that's going to help pull you up to a higher level.
Right.
Right? If you're hanging around people who are not as healthy, not as fit, who are worse than you in those situations, then that's going to pull you down.
Right.
And I'm sure we can even relate to it when we're around certain people. Like when I'm around you, Paul, you're pulling me up. You are, just your positive energy. I'm loving it. And a lot of other people are loving this as well. Like, hey, some of the comments are coming through here. Sam saying, humble man, love his attitude. Right. Rick is saying, this is awesome. Right. A lot of comments are coming through here. People are loving this. And
Mhm.
your energy is infectious,
Mhm.
right? And it's pulling people up. But I'm sure you've been around people. I've been around people who, there's never anything good. It's always, what's wrong? The weather sucks. I got aches and pains. This is wrong. That's bad. The economy, this. It's just Debbie Downers. You know what I mean? It's just pull, down.
Jim Rohn was the same way. Remember, he had blamed everything until he has met his own mentor who said, "Stop doing that. The only way you're going to change is to change yourself." I'm moved with profound emotion right now because
Mm,
if you had known me in 2016 and earlier, you would not believe I was the same person.
mm,
I'm sorry, I'm visibly tearing because the love and the positivity and the encouragement that I'm feeling from the people here is deeply moving.
mm,
When Jeff and I first contacted, I was in complete awe of him. And I wondered, will I ever get to be as amazing as he is? And over time, I had to learn to let go of that desire and say, I'm not becoming Jeff. I'm letting Jeff inspire me to be the best Paul I can be. Then I met Craig and then Mike later on. And I said, and I meant it really, he's my hero, but in the sense of a more positive thing, because I've seen what's happened to him and that inspires me to keep going. But the
yeah.
truth of it is that who I was prior to 2017 was ugly, absolutely ugly. And I called myself a monster, and I was not far off the mark. So not only does your health and fitness change, if you put the right mental frameworks in place, all kinds of things change. Jim Rohn's one example, but you have been a tremendous encouragement to me over many months, many years.
Yeah.
The advice that you've given me has got like Paul, learn to be grateful, stop complaining, and so I've taken that word and being grateful, and that's transformed me in many ways. But it's not just simply physical fitness. There's a deep psychological, spiritual aspect to
Mhm.
your transformation. Exercise should make you glad.
Mm.
I
Oh,
get to live. I get to move. I get to lift and carry and push and pull. I get to do all of this.
wow.
When you think that 95% of the planet cannot be or experience what you can, that puts things in a huge perspective. Anybody who's here today is probably in the top 5, if not 7% of the entire planet.
Hmm.
Congratulate yourselves, ladies and gentlemen. You are remarkable people, and I get to be among you.
Thanks, Paul. Man, it's moving words. Again, you've got a way with words that really move people. And I'm feeling it, and just grateful to be able to share this. It's so inspiring.
Hmm.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And it really goes to put in perspective, the true value of fitness. Because a lot of people are looking at the vanity aspects. Again, they go the abs and the an athlete on stage, or some glamorous thing, but it's just real life, being able to live your life without having your body hold you back from doing what you want to do.
Yes.
Like that's what it's all about. It really is not being a burden to yourself and not being a burden to your family. And we all know people like that. I mean, I know people like that personally. I mean, friends, family, neighbors. We have to deal with it because as they're getting older, They can't bring in their own groceries anymore. They can't shovel their own driveway anymore. They can't do basic tasks. And it's sad to see. Now, eventually I'm sure we're all going to go down that road, but we want to prolong that as long as we can. Right. And I mean,
Jonathan Selzman calls it the compression of morbidity, to narrow that sliver of time when you are just not able to be who you want to be,
right.
and just compress that. And there are people in their 90s, Lee, who are deadlifting more than I could even bench press. And it's exciting to listen to them and watch them in action in their 80s and 90s. And life, as I've said before, life has just begun for me. It's not just simply a spiritual rebirth. It is an entire rebirth. I'm a new person in many ways.
Mm.
And that's what I leave with my seniors. I leave with anybody who talks to me, the young people on Instagram who write me. And I talk to them. I said, concentrate less on how wonderful you look and concentrate on how wonderful it is to be who you are, where you are, doing what you can do. Because there will come a time when you will not be able to do that at all.
Mm.
Celebrate each moment, each ball you can throw, each discus you can hurl, each javelin you can throw from one end of the field to the other, because there'll become a time when you can't throw a straw across the table.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll be grateful that you were able to do all of that and celebrate. Yes, there'll be injuries along the way. I don't doubt that. And they say death, taxes, and injuries are the things that anyone can expect. But
Right.
don't look for them. But at the same time, don't be afraid of letting yourself be in a place where there may be an injury. Climb the mountain, and maybe you sprain an ankle, but you climbed the mountain.
Mm.
And yes, you ran in the marathon. You might have gotten a hamstring pull, but you ran a marathon. Celebrate those things. So celebrate the fact you got to the gym and you got to go walking. I know people who would give everything they own to be able to go outside and walk around the block. That's all they want. And they can't do that anymore.
Can't do it. Yeah. No, it really puts things in perspective, of what's truly important. And
Yeah.
love how you share that. I mean, we've been going almost an hour and a half now, Paul. I normally try to keep.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, sorry, kids.
Oh, I don't think there's anybody's complaint though. Like when we get very moving, we got Martin's joining in saying, "Love how you transfer your fitness coaching knowledge to others with the goal of improving their lives." Well done, Paul. Thanks, Martin. And Martin's a member of our VIP coaching program as well. So it's awesome to see. We got a lot of guys who are part of the VIP Muscle After 40 Blueprint program. And just to share, for those of you who are watching this now, if you would like some information on how to become a part of our VIP coaching group, and Paul's one of our senior members who's in there helping and inspiring, if you want some information about this, please feel free to reach out to me. I've got my contact information down in the video description below, or if you're watching this on Facebook, feel free to message me through there and just ask, reach out, send me a message and just say, hey, what's this Muscle After 40 thing all about? And we can have a chat and see if you'll be a good fit for our program. Because this is an invitation-only group, right? It's not a public group, and not everybody can just come on in and join. We want to have a positive, supportive environment of like-minded people similar to Paul, or at least on the path to becoming like Paul, who are going to add value to the group. Now, I'm not expecting everybody to come in and do an hour and a half long video chat and share all these words of wisdom. That's a bit intimidating, but at least be open to learning and sharing and adding value to the group. That's what it's all about. And that's what Paul did. I mean, he came on board and with an open mind, right? I mean, when you came on board, like you literally didn't no nutrition knowledge, no exercise knowledge, nothing. So you were just like an open book, but you absorbed it like a sponge, asked questions. And as I always mention, like there's no such thing as a stupid question, as long as it's a legitimate question.
Yes.
Sometimes on these video chats, we do get stupid questions.
We get interesting questions. I'll agree.
We do get some, but if it's a legitimate question that you really have, meaning, it's something about your fitness or nutrition or how do I do something or whatever. I mean, hey, we can get those questions answered and just create that positive support environment. And that's what we need. We need that community, like a brotherhood, a camaraderie of people who are there to help pull each other up. Right. Because most of us don't have that in our real world, with our family, our friends, our neighbors. I love how you're creating that with your church group, but most people don't have it. Like me personally, I don't have that within my own family. Like, I'm the only one in my immediate family who is serious about exercise. The rest of them are like, oh, I'll work out on and off, or they might start a workout routine in New Year's and then give it up in February, or I'm going to go on a diet one of these days. That type of attitude,
Yeah.
and that's fine, right? I mean, I don't try and force fitness on anybody. I used to when I was younger. In my early days in fitness and coaching and bodybuilding, I used to go out there and try to be everybody's hero. And I was gonna teach fitness to everybody. And what did I do? I just pissed people off. They're like, "Oh, geez, Lee's gonna talk fitness. Shut up." They literally brush it off. So I learned the hard way. If somebody doesn't want this, you can't force it on anybody, right? You can't force somebody to change. So in my family, very few people are fitness minded. But I've created that community. Like, we have the Muscle After 40 Blueprint program, and I have friends at the gym that I associate with, help create that positive community. I have other people that I'm involved with. This past year, I actually joined a cycling group. So that's another form of exercise that I get, and another supportive and positive environment that I'm a part of. So all these things, you got to go out and create your own environment. So if you'd like to become part of our VIP coaching group, feel free to reach out to me and we can have a chat and see if you'll be a good fit. But with that being said, Paul, do you have anything else to add? Feel free.
For you, specifically for you, as a granddad to a young dad, I love what you're doing with Harvey.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
This is not happening in a vacuum. And your fathering and your parenting of Harvey touches many lives. And I'm very proud of you. You are doing a good job. Keep at it. And I'm a granddad of many children, 5. So I've had my parental experience, and I'm watching what you're doing. Well done, Lee. Well done.
Thank you so much, Paul. It means a lot. And he's my main motivation at this stage of the game, right? If there was nothing, if we weren't doing this online and sharing it with the world, I want to do it to share it with him. Because as you know, kids don't listen to what you say; they see what you do. And that's my motivation. I want him to see daddy exercise and see daddy eating healthy, see daddy being a fit dad. That's what I want to see. And I can certainly see the results paying off day by day, and hopefully I'm sure it will. But I mean, that'll plant the seeds that are going to carry over, so that he doesn't have to go through some of the challenges like you have, for example. I don't want him to be 60 years old without having exercised. I want him to start right now. Well, we're going to get ready and clue this up. Again, this has been a wonderful conversation. I mean, I don't know. I don't even have the words to explain it, but this was a very powerful conversation. And I thank you for sharing. And it's just been great. And I'm sure we'll have you back on again for more of these conversations.
As you're able.
Absolutely. All right, guys, we're going to clue it up. If you enjoyed this, please give it a thumbs up, give it a heart, whatever it is. If you're over on Facebook, you can give the hearts. If you're over on YouTube, you can give the thumbs up. Share your comments and feedback. And if you do have any questions or you want to reach out to myself or Paul, feel free to do so. We're both on Facebook. You can find Paul Miller on Facebook. Or you can reach out to me through Messenger. And if you're watching this on YouTube, I have my email address down in the description below. So you can reach out to me that way if you have any questions, comments, or feedback. And we'll clue it up, and we'll do another one of these video chats next week. All right. Take care. Over and out. All right. I'm going to end the broadcast.